This is the TRU Leader Podcast. Today, we discuss how to create and sustain an effective and transformational relationship with the person that you report to. And we share our go-to tool on how to improve that relationship. So stay tuned.
Welcome to the TRU Leader Podcast. I'm Dr. Tracy Christofferson.
And I'm Michelle Troset.
We are life and business besties, leadership coaches and mentors, and polarity intelligence experts. We're the authors of Polarity Intelligence, The Missing Logic in Leadership, and co-founders of Missing Logic.
We are here to help high-achieving leaders break through leadership norms that cause them suffering at work and home. If you're looking to elevate your leadership, increasing your productivity, effectiveness, and impact, and manage your health and well-being, spend quality time with those you love, and live your best life, then you are in the right place.
Our goal in this podcast is to equip you with new ways of thinking and practical and tactical strategies for succeeding at work and thriving in life. Think of this podcast as your weekly dose of personal and professional development so you can reach your full leadership potential, create a life you love, and be what we are calling a thriving, resilient, and unstoppable or true leader.
If you are ready to learn and laugh a little, let's get started.
Welcome to the TRU Leader Podcast. I'm Tracy.
And I am Michelle. We're so glad to be here with you.
We are.
Yes, we are.
This is our happy place, sitting here in the studio, talking to you.
Getting ready to deliver another awesome episode of the TRU Leader Podcast.
Mm-hmm. Always. They're always awesome.
I know. So I'm visualizing some of you going for a walk, listening to us, driving in your car, on a train, sitting in a park, drinking your morning cup of coffee.
Putting your makeup on.
Because Tracy knows that's where I listen to a lot of podcasts, is when I put my makeup on in the morning.
She does. That's what she does. That's right. I'm dancing, listening to music. Getting down with my bad self. I don't have that much makeup to put on, I gotta go. Done.
No, not me. Not me. Got the hair going, the makeup going.
Yeah. It always takes her a little bit longer than me. But hey, we are here. We're ready. We got our makeup on. And we got something to talk about today, don't we?
We do.
What is it?
We are talking about the relationship with the person you report to.
Oh, the one-up relationship.
The one-up.
Ooh.
Yeah. We're gonna.
Vital relationship.
It is. Now, Tracy, in getting ready for this, I have directly reported to between 10 and 11 people, I think. So, and that's different for every person.
Yeah, I think I've only reported to a couple.
Really?
Yeah. I married one of them.
That's true, folks.
We don't want to talk about that story. I managed that one up really well.
True story.
Best way to get him under control is marry him. I hadn't even thought about that till this moment.
Oh my gosh. I couldn't imagine reporting to my husband.
Wow. Then they had to put somebody in between us, They had to insert another leader in between us, which that person wasn't happy about. But, hey.
Yeah.
It's just life in the fast lane.
It is. Well, I've had a lot of contrast. So I was reflecting on getting ready for this that, I've had just the best of the best. And then I also have had some that have been challenging, but I learned a lot from them as well,
Oh, well, yeah.
You always learn from it, right?
Yeah, but I think really, like I've had 5 people I've reported to.
Okay. Yeah, I've had about 10, 11.
Yeah, but neither here nor there.
That's right.
Right. I've had a lot of relationships that weren't necessarily reporting relationships, like in a business sense, but in school.
Oh, yeah.
with the dissertation and different things like that, then I've had people that I had to kind of manage up. And some I didn't, and it didn't go well. And we'll talk about that as we go forward.
But, we do want to talk about this because relationships are so important. And everyone really does desire to have a great relationship with the person you're reporting to. I mean, let's face it, it makes life go a lot better.
Oh, it does.
It's a critical relationship. And to have an effective relationship with your one-up or your boss or your superior, whatever your situation is, it is really important. And, sometimes those relationships can look different. It just depends on the situation, the context. And personalities aren't the only thing that can get in the way or be a problem. Mm-hmm. And if you don't get along, there's other factors. So we want to really talk to you today about the other things we've learned. And what's so important is just the mutual understanding that you have with the person that you report to and establishing that shared purpose. Because if that's not there, you are in for a long road. So it's so important because to have that solid relationship where you can really both be committed and have it flow easily and keep moving forward with what your shared purpose is makes all the difference in the world. So we just want you to ask yourself, what are the best ways to interact with your one-up to get what you need to support their success and excel at your job and what you need to accomplish as well?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a key question,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's a key question. And I think when you don't have that shared purpose and you're just at odds with each other and you're just pulling in different directions,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like having an engine on a train and both ends and trying to go in the opposite direction. You're just like always with that tug of war kind of a feeling, right? So it's not conducive to, productive, effective work, right? Either, or to a strong emotional and mental health, I think, right, too. So we want to talk a little bit about the leadership norms, of course, because, we're all about busting through the norms that don't serve us or norms that really end up hurting us in the long run. So we wanted to just think a little bit about some of the norms that come up
Mm-hmm.
when we think about managing up, or we think about that relationship with our one up, the leader we report to. And, a few things that came to mind, I'll just list out a few things that came to mind, right? Were never let them see you sweat. Being emotional is a sign of weakness. So don't show your emotions, whatever you do. Bring solutions, not problems.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting one, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Under promise and over deliver, and don't be friends with your boss. Sound familiar?
Yep.
Yeah.
I've heard all of those before.
Yeah. And what comes up for me when I think about those is it's like a facade, facade. Like you
Facade?
facade, facade, whatever you want to call it.
Oh my gosh, I'm usually the one that does that.
It was just like, it's like, you just aren't real.
Right.
You're just not real with each other. And so it's this falseness, this false sense of who you are, what you're conveying to somebody. It's just disingenuous. It's not authentic. And then, the question always comes up for me is, how far is that getting you? If you're not real about who you are, what your experience is, if you can't be genuine and authentic, then you're not going to get where you want to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just you have to really ask yourself, if you feel like that's the situation you're in and that's who you need to be, is really, putting on that mask.
Yep. Playing the role.
Yeah.
Boss and subordinate.
Yeah. And not really being true to yourself.
Yeah.
Then that's really, that's just not going to serve you in the long run. And that's what these kinds of leadership norms, I think, can imply and can drive you down that road, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can't hold on to these.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't serve you, you got to let them go,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you got to find a way to be authentic and be who you are. And healthy relationships really are all about mutual respect, compassion for each other, seeing the potential in each other, respecting each other conditionally and unconditionally. That's what a healthy relationship is like. And so if you can't do that or have that, then you have to really examine the relationship. And this is the opportunity to turn that relationship around.
Yeah. And then there's some things that happen in the workforce that can contribute to why that's not the norm. And these are things we've been hearing we hear quite a bit. And one of them is that people are promoted because of their technical expertise, but they don't know how to be a leader. And then someone has to report to that person. And all they're good as at the job that they did prior to. And so they may not be good at leadership skills. They may not be good at relationships. So that's going to impact the quality of that relationship.
Well, and I think to think about they might not be good at it yet.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Let's paint the picture in the healthy relationship that there's potential,
Yeah.
right? So you have to think about that, right? They might not be good at it, but yet, and how are they being set up to fail?
And how are they going to be developed?
Yeah, exactly.
Because there are situations where people are put in those roles and they're not developed. So yeah, they may have potential, but who's helping them get there?
And you may be that person
It could be.
to show them how to lead.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, that happens is people just fall into their people-pleasing patterns. So that causes more dysfunction, not bringing your authentic self. So that's another pattern that can happen, too.
Yeah. And I think that can be a personal thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's not imposed on you. That's something personal to explore within yourself. Do I have that potential like that? You know, do I typically do that? Want to please people? You know, is that kind of my nature? And what do I need to explore around that, right? To show up as a stronger partner in this relationship. Yeah.
And the other thing that we see is sometimes when someone does report to someone else, they can play a very passive role because it's just kind of, again, they've been indoctrinated in some way that, well, they're the boss. I can't really take the initiative. I can't bring my concerns forward. So you can fall into a passive role. And then also we just can make a lot of assumptions about each other. You could just make assumptions because this person's my boss, the person I report to, and the same thing can happen the other way around. Well, this person reports to me, so I probably can't say this or do it. So we can make a lot of assumptions about each other and around a lot of different things.
Yeah. And I think I would say probably early on in my career, that's probably the frame that I came from. It's not up to me, right? This is just who they are. I have to toe the line. I'm a rule follower by nature. So, you know, whoever's setting the rules, I'm following them, right? And I think too, even later on, and I missed this in the relationship that I had with the chair for my dissertation. And that this person was new to being the chair, had never done it before. And I made an assumption about the relationship we had established when I took that person's course. And I didn't manage them up in the regard of what I needed. And I don't even think I was really even sure what I needed. I had never done a dissertation before. So, you know, when you use hindsight and you think about all the different things, you know, when I got my new dissertation chair, because that whole thing fell apart because of the lack of the relationship and the communication, right? And the supporting each other around a shared purpose. Me being a novice as a dissertation, you know, a PhD student, and this person being a novice as a chair was probably not the best combination. And it ended up crumbling. And I got a new chair. Now, that person had a whole different approach. That was very much more structured, tightly controlled, a lot more communication, a lot more guidance. It was a whole different situation. But I didn't know enough how to coach up or how to ask for. Sometimes you got to seek guidance. You might not even know what you don't know, and how you're showing up is having an impact on it.
Right.
So it just kind of came to me as I was thinking about this and preparing for this. A lot of that was at play in my incredible experience on my PhD. My PhD journey.
And there's one more thing that I think we see when it comes to this relationship too, is that there's just not a lot of time for true dialogue between two people, one reporting to the other person, where you just intentionally spend time in dialogue, learning about, you know, anything, each other, the work, the challenges, ideas. And so that also can impact the relationship if you're not spending time in conversation together to really explore what each of you know. You know, one of the principles of dialogue is everyone has a wisdom you don't know. So even though you report to someone, you just need to know you have a wisdom that person doesn't know. And if you have people that report to you, that person has a wisdom you don't know, and where dialogue can really reveal that. So that's another trend that we see.
Yeah, and I think too, just in leadership teams. I mean, I know we're focused on the one-up relationship, but there's a lot of one-up relationships. So if you think about a group of managers reporting up to directors and directors reporting up to VPs, there's not a lot of leadership dialogue either, where leaders in the different levels are coming together to say, let's just see what we know about this.
Right.
Before we dive in to fix the problem, to solve, to come up with solutions, what is the wisdom we all have?
Exactly.
Right. So there's not even a larger group dialogue, which could help inform everybody, right? To be with each other differently too. So we see that too. They don't even know what that means to have those kind of conversations.
They don't. So what we've learned, just to share some wisdom with you about what Tracy and I have learned, is what is really needed is you need to understand each other's strengths, their weaknesses, what their needs and expectations are. Like there's a lot of foundational stuff that you have to uncover because it is a relationship. So that's really important. And then it's really important that you do your own work around it, right? There's a mutuality in this relationship. So it's really important you do your part of the equation and that you understand yourself first and take that time to do that. And then also to get perspective from those outside your organization. You may even tap into people that can help you, that can help coach you in that relationship as well. And really, the only person you can change is yourself. You can't.
And that right there is gold.
That's
folks.
gold.
That is the cornerstone of every relationship that you have. You cannot change anybody else.
No, you can.
So if you're in this to change somebody, it isn't going to happen. Now you can influence through your own behavior. So that's why these things are so important for you to know yourself, to know how you're showing up, to know how you're being. Because that's the only thing you've got any control over is how you show up in the relationship. No matter if it's the best relationship or the worst relationship, it's all about how you're showing up in it. And you got to do your own work first, show up differently, and hopefully influence the outcome of that, right? Yeah, that's worth the whole podcast right there, folks.
Okay, that was gold. Here's silver. No, I'm kidding. It's really important to focus on the outcome and not the problem. So when you're in conversations, and of course, you're always dealing with challenges, and it can get frustrating, especially if you have a different perspective than the person you're reporting to. But it's really helpful just to keep focusing on that outcome. That's why that shared purpose is so important, and that what's the common goal, because that can make a big difference on the relationship too. When you just stay focused on that outcome that's desired. And then ask for help working on solutions. Don't be afraid to ask for help from the person you report to either. Like that could be a block for people. Well, I can't ask for him the help. He's my boss or she's my boss. And that's not true. You can't solve every issue on your own. And it's not like you're going to ask all the time, but ask. If you need help, ask.
Well, and they're leaders. They're a level up from you for a reason. Right? They've dealt with a number of different things. And this may be your first time trying to address this challenge, or the first time it's happened for you, and they will have experience and wisdom to share with you. Now, it's not about going in and handing the problem to them or the issue or the challenge to them to fix. It's about help me.
Yeah.
Right. I want to do this, but I'm not quite sure what direction to go in. And that's where you can say, here's what I'm thinking. I just want to know if you've had an experience with this and if you would have any other guidance or suggestions, right? But if you go in with a plan, then it shows that you're trying to do your own critical thinking, that you're trying to work through it yourself, and that you're just really trying to tap into their wisdom. And there isn't any leader who doesn't like to share their wisdom, folks. Like people love to talk about what they know. So when you just open them up and give them that opportunity to share, most leaders will be happy to share what they have learned about things.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's one more thing that I think is really important, is be careful not to be indispensable to your person you're reporting to, because that can backfire on you. Pretty soon you're getting asked to do everything. So it's important to create boundaries as well, to really have that relationship be healthy and have clear lines of delineation as well. And that it's important to delegate to others yourself so that you can grow and always be in succession planning, because there's the person in front of you, but then there's also people behind you.
Well, and I think one other thing is you always have a choice. You always have agency, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you always have the ability to walk away from something that is not serving you, that will not serve you. So you just always have to know that too. Not every relationship can be resolved to the way that's going to serve you the most. And it's not, but you don't want that to be your first escape, right? Like, this isn't working, I'm out of here, right? That's not helping you grow and evolve. That's not helping the person you're reporting to. It really is to give your all. If this is a role that you are, really committed to, something that you really want to do, then it's important to commit to the relationship too.
Mm-hmm.
But there can come a time when you've done everything you can do and it's not going to work. And we've all had those, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've all had those. And so there's a little bit of that as well. So just know that. We're not saying, hang in there until your eyeballs are bleeding or something, right? Like, another thing to think about here is we wanted to talk about, of course, the polarities that are present in these relationships. And there's quite a lengthy list of them. And this is why relationships are, they're really important and they're complex. There's a lot of levels and layers to relationships and to people. And I think the thing about knowing yourself is to understand your preference poles, the things that you prefer. So, because it has a big impact on your openness to other perspectives, on your ability to leverage some of these polarities, because sometimes you will hold yourself back because you're afraid of the other pole. You have fears around that. Like, if you're a big productivity person like I am, this whole conversation around relationships might be flipping you out, right? Because you don't see yourself as a relationship person. You don't see yourself with these skills and abilities to strengthen and grow relationships because you hang out in the productivity pole. That's what you like. You like the doing of things and just to getting stuff done and checking off the boxes. And this might have you freaking out. And that's okay, because that's just showing you what your preference pole is, and that there's an opportunity for growth and learning and evolution and evolvement. And it's okay to say, you know what, this isn't my strength, but I can learn and I can take on some new things and I can put myself out there, right? The other thing is you can hang on to your perspective and your point of view and your pole so tight too, right? That it interferes with your ability to have the relationship with the person. So you want to always kind of be aware of your preferences. The other thing is you're kind of biased to your perspective. So you're only seeing things through the lens of what you prefer. So if you only look at everything that's happening through the lens of productivity, and I'm just going to hang on that one because it's productivity and relationship, right? Then you're only seeing part of the picture. You're not seeing the complete picture when it comes to this connection with your one up into the shared purpose that you have. So you really need to be open enough, understand where your biases are, and then be open enough to see the other perspective, to see the benefit of the other pole, and to be able to lean in a little bit more to that pole to help leverage it better. The other thing I think too that I found interesting was about the problems, right? Bring solutions, not problems. And it's just like not every challenge you face is a problem. So that sets my right. Oftentimes these are polarities that you're dealing with in your relationship, in the work that you're trying to do together, in the shared purpose you're trying to achieve. So not everything is a problem and not everything has a solution. So just having that awareness can help you engage in the conversations differently, I think too.
And what came up for me, Tracy, is a lot of what you're bringing is like from my perspective of who I'm, me, and how I am when I report to someone. But I think having the wisdom of polarities and how they work is when you feel tension consistently with the person you report to, it may not be, it also is helpful to know what their preferences are, because that actually helps you understand, like, oh my gosh, this is why we're having this challenge. So it's like of course, a two-way street.
Yeah, it's a both and.
It's a both and,
It's a both and. Yeah, for sure. And then I think the other thing is these are values. Polarities are values. So we're talking about values, right? And so when you have a preference pole, that's your value. You have, you're connected to that, right? You're committed to what you value.
Right.
And that's why we hang on so tight. And that's why we have fears of what isn't our value, right? So again, it's just speaking in terms of values and understanding the values. And to Michelle's point, when you understand that a lot of the tensions you're experiencing are actually polarities, and you can speak in terms of values and really understand and seek to understand what it is they value most, then you are going to be farther ahead of the game, because you're going to have that insight into who they are as a person and what they value. And you can start speaking in their language around the ways and the things that they prefer. So we'll talk a little bit about the multitude of polarities. I'm not going to go into depth on all of them, but one of the first ones is leading and managing, I think.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And when we talked earlier about, you might not be a leader yet, or your leader may not be a leader yet. They may be a manager, right? Maybe they were a manager first and now they're in a leadership position and you're reporting to them. It's a combination, right? It's a both and. Sometimes we lead, sometimes we manage. And so that is a polarity that can be at play. You may be, reporting to somebody who has more of a manager, more of a control, direction, right? They're trying to drive something forward. And you might be reporting to somebody who's like that when what you really need is leadership, right? So it's just being aware and knowing, right? It's not either or, it's both. And there are times to manage and there are times to lead. And so it's just understanding that dynamic between the two.
And as a follow-up to leading and managing, because it's close, but a little bit different, is leading and following. So it's important that sometimes you lead and sometimes you follow. And you'd be amazed how many times if you step up and take the lead, how your leader will follow. So it's great to think about that polarity as well.
Yeah, that is a really important one. And I think, another one is directive decision-making and participative decision-making. So sometimes, this is another one where fear can really come into play, right? Where some people want to be very directive because they want that control. They want to know exactly what's happening. They're going to lay down, this is exactly how this is going to happen, and what needs to happen. Because they like that. They feel like that brings that structure, that certainty, right? And when you have participative decision-making, they can be hanging on to the directive because they have some fears about what it would mean to have participative decision-making. And maybe they've had a bad experience with it. So again, it's just having the opportunity to explore. On the other hand, you may have somebody who is heavy and really leaning into the participative decision-making, and you would just really like some direction, right? So this can show up in a lot of different ways. What you want is the best of both, right? That's where you're going to get to a really effective relationship and the ability to, work with each other. Another one that kind of goes along with that is the vertical and horizontal relationships, which is really about hierarchy and partnership in the long run. And we're used to hierarchical relationships, right? Top down. But this also, you need that kind of partnering perspective and that relationship where it's not all about just, top down. There is that ability to seek other perspectives and to connect those perspectives into the structure of the organization, but also that influences decision-making as well.
And sometimes you might need to be the bridge for that because you're closer to the front line than the person you're reporting to is. So sometimes bringing that perspective is really important.
Yeah, there's, like Michelle said earlier, there's lots of different perspectives. Everybody that has a different role has a different perspective, right? Yeah. Because they're seeing it through a different lens. And another couple of ones are candor and diplomacy. This is really important, to be candid, to ask for what you need, to and do that in a very respectful way. And I think the other thing too is just that whole conditional, unconditional respect, right? There are some conditions when it comes to reporting and leadership, and there is respect for integrity, honesty, right? All of those things create the conditions of respect. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We all make mistakes. We're all learning. We're all growing. We're all evolving. And that's the unconditional respect piece, to say not every person is going to be perfect. The leader's not going to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect.
Right.
But it is about what can we learn from each other? How can we grow and evolve collectively, together, and independently of each other, so that the relationship continues to grow? That's really what it's all about, right? At the end of the day. And we've already kind of talked a lot about productivity and relationships to hammer that one, right? And then individual and team, of course, right? That's another one as well.
So what we have put into practice for our relationship, I guess you could say we report to each other.
Well, we have a dyad relationship.
Yeah. And what
Equality.
we use with our true coaching clients too, like this is that we introduce to them for them to use in their lives, is a partnership agreement form. And this is really helpful. This lays the foundation of the relationship. It really creates that psychological safety because you're really clear on expectations. And it's a tool that makes you really think about how you want to show up in the relationship, and also for you to listen to what your person that you report to, what they need and what's important to them, and for you to establish some mutual agreements on expectations. And then how can I meet the most critical needs of this person? And you also know that you've had a chance to voice what's really important to you as well. So it's really helpful, and it helps you know each other's preference and communication styles. And it also helps get rid of those assumptions that we brought up earlier. If you really bring everything out into the open, know what's important to each of you, what your expectations are, and that really helps with that. And it helps you to live in integrity. And you can go back and revisit the agreement from time to time because maybe things change. So it's a really helpful tool to help hold each other accountable and to revisit when needed.
Yeah, I think it's, I think about the use of this. I think when you're establishing a new relationship, this is so helpful, right? Because it gives a framework. It's a tool that offers a framework for guiding a very important conversation, a very important relationship. It lays out everything that you would need. And I think it can be so helpful. And especially if you're one of those people that don't feel like relationships are your thing, right? And you don't even know how to go about establishing a relationship in that way, right? That kind of relationship and the importance of the relationship. So I think that's really important. Then I think too, it helps keep things from going south. So when you establish one of these, right, partnership agreement tools, which are really kind of the guardrails for the relationship, then you've got something to come back to say, here's what we talked about. Here's what you said I could count on you for. And this is what's missing. I feel is missing in our relationship. So I just wonder if we could talk about that. What's happening for you? Is there something going on? Is there, something else I need to do to support this? So it gives you those guardrails to keep your relationship from plummeting off the cliff. And it also gives you, kind of a sense of security, a way to go back to somebody with something that might be a tough call or a tough conversation. It gives you that ability to do that, especially if that's not your strong suit. And if you have some fears about it, it's something you've already agreed on, right? You've already had conversation about it. So you can just go back to the conversation you had. And to your point, maybe something's changed or maybe there's something going on. We all have stuff going on in our lives that isn't, in the camera for everybody else to see, right? And so sometimes it's just there's other things going on that are impacting that person's behaviors that you don't know anything about. And it gives you an opportunity to open up and just to say, is there something you need me to know? Is there anything I can do to support you? Has something changed for you? Because sometimes you'll notice a change in behavior and you're kind of like, it's just not usual, or what's going on with this, or right. And it might be something you're just not aware of. So it gives you kind of permission, I think, to ask, which I love. I love that. It's so helpful. It is helpful. And, we have identified in our book, Polarity Intelligence, The Missing Logic in Leadership, right? Polarity Intelligence is understanding the polarities, which we've talked about, but it's also about healthy relationships and meaningful dialogue. And in the book, we outline a number of principles for each of those components to really help guide the behaviors, to guide how we're showing up in the relationships. And so really embodying and embracing those principles kind of go hand in hand with the partnership tool. It really helps to leverage those principles when you're kind of, working through this tool and using this tool as a guideline or, guardrails for your relationship. And in the healthy relationship principles, it really starts with intention. So it is all about how are you choosing to show up in the relationship? And I think a really healthy question is, do you show up different in a relationship that's struggling than you do in a relationship that's strong? And so sometimes, it's just about setting your intention to be different in the relationship, to show up differently, to really connect with that person at a more human level, and to be intentional in the relationship. I think that makes a big difference. Another element is, of course, shared purpose, which we've talked about. That's just, that common purpose that you're striving for. So you're headed in the same direction.
That's critical.
Right.
It's
You've
critical.
got your engines on the front of the train and you're going the same direction, right? Not in opposite direction. It is critical to the relationship. If you don't have shared purpose, you're just at odds with each other. And it just makes it worse. Not going to be easy. Oh, no. It makes it a whole lot worse. And then equal responsibility, right? It's not about, power over, and it's really about equality when it comes to shared purpose. We both are accountable to the achievement of the shared purpose. So how can we get there in the fastest, easiest, most effective way? That's really what you're after.
And that, again, that's critical to a relationship where there's power dynamics. You said power over, but and have a conversation about our equal responsibility to achieve that shared purpose.
Yeah. And then I think too, the other one is human capacity. So, back to earlier conversations in the podcast, you really have to, maybe I'm not a leader yet, but maybe I can be one. And you have to be able to see that people have the capacity, they have the potential to grow and evolve and to become what they probably have the capacity to do. Right? And so it's really just supporting that and seeing that in them and them seeing that in you as well, right? So it can go both ways. And then you have to be in relationship with yourself and others. So you got to understand yourself, understand how you're showing up in the relationship, as well as understand what is important and essential for others and how you can serve them and be a good partner and be in a good relationship with them based on their needs and who they are and what's important to them as well, because it is about both of you, not just one. And then I think the other, just fundamentally, you have to have trust. The relationship doesn't have a chance if there isn't trust, but you have to be trustworthy first in order to establish trust. So that's a key thing. One of the core principles, especially in this kind of a relationship. You're not going to be vulnerable and open if there isn't a trust there, right?
Right. And it's also a great time to practice the principles of meaningful dialogue, because after all, that's what this is. When you meet with your person you report to, and you are using this partnership agreement tool, it is a great place to start to practice the meaningful dialogue principles. And the first one is intention and really creating that space for psychological safety. So to Tracy's point, it is a great tool to start when you have a new relationship with someone. But I also want you to know you could use it at any time. But it's starting out to say, my intention is to really listen to you and really listen to your perspective and create that safe place so we can learn about each other and we can talk about our agreement and whatever is most in our mind. And when you don't have that psychological safety, you might hold back. So it's important to create that. And then it's another principle is active listening and awareness. So this is really listening to what the other person is saying, but also being aware about, are they looking comfortable when they're talking to you? Are you picking up on any other cues? And really stepping into those, really, living that skill set too of listening. And sometimes you may be more worried about what your manager is going to say to you than really listening to the words that they're saying. And then also balancing advocacy and inquiry. So this is a two-way dialogue that you're having when you're using the partnership agreement tool. And so this is your opportunity to share with the person you report to, what is your thinking behind your thinking. Maybe it's experience with the previous manager that you reported to, and that may be impacting your relationship with this person. So just sharing whatever comes up for you and giving the reason for that, and then asking questions so that you really can dive deeper into that relationship. And if you're curious about something that that person says, or what comes up, make sure you just put that question on the table, because that could uncover a lot of wisdom that wouldn't come out otherwise.
Yeah, I think that's key. And the questions need to be genuine, not leading questions like you're on a fishing expedition, right? But they need to be just really genuine, because you really want to know and you really want to learn from this person or understand their experiences. It's comes from that genuine level of curiosity. Tell me more about what you've experienced. Tell me more about, we don't often know the history behind everybody. We've all been on a journey. We don't know what's informed us, right? And so, I think that's such a powerful principle, as that principle of inquiry and advocacy. Yeah.
And whenever you are even framing it around curiosity, well, I'm curious why you say that, it can go a long way, right? Yep. And then the other principle is leveraging candor and diplomacy. We already talked about that earlier when we talked about polarities, but this is a great time to leverage that during the partnership agreement. And then inviting silence and reflection. And I think that's really valuable as well. And you may even have times in your conversation when you have to say, let's give me just a minute to think about that, and be thoughtful about it, and really give yourself some space when you're developing this relationship as well. One of the recommendations that Tracy and I make when they do the partnership agreement is to give yourself at least 30 minutes, if not even more than that, and then to do your own reflection before you even get together. So it's not intended to be a task that you just quickly do. It's really meant to be a tool to develop a healthy partnership.
Yeah, and to engage in dialogue with each other, right? And so I think that's a critical key point, is you may say, hey, I would like to use this tool to deepen our relationship. Would you be in agreement to doing that with me? And then, give them adequate time to do their reflection, sit in silence, really be thoughtful and intentional about how they want to respond to the questions, as you do as well, and then engage in the dialogue and share what you've learned, right, with each other.
Exactly.
So, yeah. I think it is an awesome tool, and I think it can be extremely helpful, regardless of what level the relationship is and what state the relationship is in. And I think, again, with intention, if you come to the relationship to say, my intention is to strengthen our relationship, to make sure that it's strong and healthy and effective for us and the work that we need to do here. I think it goes a long way to just state what your intention is when you're bringing this to somebody that doesn't know it, right? And don't have the fear of, I can't do that. And I would say too, another great suggestion, if I don't say so myself, is practice with somebody that you have a good relationship with. If you're a little bit nervous about taking this tool to somebody that that you're reporting to, you're not quite sure how it's going to go over, and you want to just have a practice session, sit down with your best friend, or sit down with your, a peer, or your partner, your husband, whatever. Just sit down with somebody that you have a good relationship with and go through the tool just to get the experience of it. We've had people do that in groups, just shared with each other, as peers. What do I want from this relationship? What do you need from me? How can I support you? All those kinds of things. And just have the experience so that you gain a little comfort with it. Yeah. And that can be really helpful. And the tool is available to you. So you can actually access the partnership agreement tool in the show notes, and the link in the show notes. So make sure you do that. And just really, it's all about, practicing these principles, stepping out of your comfort zone a little bit in some regards, and just, setting that intention to be in a great relationship. Yeah.
Relationships are all there is.
They're all there is. They're all there is, right? So, just download the tool, practice using it. Let us know. You can send us a comment at, questions@missinglogic.com, or you can also just leave a comment on our YouTube channel. Let us know if you've used the tool, how it's supported you, And, certainly if you have questions, let us know because we can talk more about this tool on our podcast in the future. So, are you ready to close up?
Yep. I'm ready to close.
All right.
So thank you. We appreciate you all so much. And we hope that you got a lot of value today. We're excited for you to look at your relationships and use the tool. And as Tracy said, we're anxious to hear how it goes for you. And we ask that you leave us a rate and review on our podcast. That really helps other listeners get to know about the podcast. And certainly share it. If this was valuable to you, share it with others. And if you want to see us on video, you can always watch us on our YouTube channel as well. Our numbers are going up, and we would love more people to see us there. So we look forward to seeing you next time. In the meantime, stay safe and stay healthy.
Did you know many of the ongoing micro stressors you experience come from the pressures put on you from the people closest to you? As part of a leadership team, each member brings unique skills and perspectives to the table. However, despite your sense of shared goals, conflicts arise, misunderstandings occur, and trust can waver, and that's on a good day. So how do you navigate these challenges, reduce stress, and ensure that your relationships remain strong and effective? Well, the best way is to use a tool that fosters collaboration, communication, and mitigates conflict before it even happens. A tool that clarifies expectations, outlines responsibilities, and establishes guidelines for addressing issues immediately. Well, we have just the tool for you. The Partnership Agreement Tool is the most effective tool for establishing and maintaining your most important relationships. From routine check-ins to progress tracking and conflict resolution, this tool supports you every step of the way. Imagine the impact of having clear expectations, open communication, and a shared vision guiding your relationships with the Partnership Agreement Tool. That vision can become a reality. So whether you're embarking on a new relationship or looking to enhance an existing one, consider incorporating the Partnership Agreement Tool into your leadership toolkit. Click the link in the show notes today and download a free copy of the Partnership Agreement Tool so you can start fostering healthier, more effective relationships with your team and peers.